Hello to all that are interested in the policy committee meeting that we're having today. I'm Barry Malvers, I'm the chairman of the committee, and I'm joined by David Thomas and Stephanie Rawlinson, who are our members of the policy committee. And of course, Mary is there along with Susan and some other staff members. I would like to call our meeting to order. And I will also give the invocation, which I'd invite somebody else to do next month if they'd like to. So if I could bow and do that. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you for the privilege of allowing us to help those with disabilities to have a more productive and better life as you would see fit. Keep us safe throughout the day and keep us all safe from COVID if it be your will. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Barry, if I may say, I want to just go ahead and tell you who's in the, we have to do the meeting announcement too. So do you have the meeting announcement or would you like Susan to read it?
I was about to do that. That was my next thing I was going to say. I don't have it, so if Susan would read it, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. Our pleasure.
Sure. A meeting notice announcing the date, time, and place of the July 14, 2020 Policy Committee meeting was distributed July 8, 2020 to appropriate media and other groups or individuals who have requested notification. The announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Administrative Office and on the website. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistance, or other assistance will be provided to individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested in advance.
And in the room today along with me is Susan Beck, who will be leading the meeting since she's our policy director. We have Melissa Ritter, we have Janet Priest, we have Pat Malley, Chris Clark, and Constance Holloway. And online we have Commissioners Malphurs, Thomas, and Rawlinson. Is there anybody else online that I do not know about? Okay, I just wanted to get that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. No problem. The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as it is presented to us here today?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second motion.
So motion made and seconded. Is hearing no further discussion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is our first item, which is the well, actually it's under new business. Actually, of course, well, I guess the first thing I should say is that there are three actions we can take. One is a committee review, and the other is delegation of the directives to another committee, which we'll get to toward the end, and delegation to staff. The first thing is the first section is what we're going to cover now. The last two we'll cover at the end, and they'll be much quicker. There are several policies. There are a number of policies we're trying to do today, and there's a few changes I'm going to recommend and see what the rest of the committee thinks. The first item or the first policy that we're looking at today is what they call DDSN ends policy. And that one has not been updated for a number of years. So the first thing that I would like to say about that policy is that it says in the first paragraph, it says that DDSN exists for the success of its customers. And I really think that should say clients, because we have a fiduciary duty to our clients, and if you have a client, then you have a fiduciary duty. If you have a customer, you really don't have a fiduciary duty. And obviously fiduciary duty means that we act for someone else's benefit, and our benefit is subservient to theirs, which is exactly what our situation is, I think, with the Board of Disabilities. And so, and I just think well, that's the first change I'd asked about.
I'm showing, Barry, I'm showing a different word there. I'm showing consumers, not customers.
It is consumers.
Okay, okay,
Excuse me, well, it's consumers, but I still think it should be clients.
okay,
For the same reason I just said, but it is consumers, you're right, sorry.
okay, no problem. I just want to make sure.
But I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, obviously, that's not something this policy is not something I'm gonna be upset about, because I don't think much is gonna change, based on what we put in it. But that was a consideration I wanted to make. And then there's another one, if you want me to move on to the next one, which is under number 3 of that policy. We could use the word, I would like to see us use the word potential, like to help them reach their potential as opposed to their success, just because I like the word potential a lot better for people that have disabilities, because we're trying to reach our potential more than our success, because success is such a vague term, and potential is more of a term that varies from person to person, I think, but that's just me. And then
Where's that, Barry?
Where is it?
in the third, number 3 on the first page of that policy, it says, oh, I'm sorry. It says full potential, and I wanted to put in the first part. I'm sorry, I'm messing this up. It does say full potential in the third paragraph, which is what I wanted to say, and I just wanted it to be consistent with the first paragraph to say full potential as opposed to. Let's see, where does it say?
Gotcha.
Exists for the success of its. Exists for the success, and I wanted. I'm sorry. In the first paragraph, I wanted to make it the same as the third as number 3, where it says full potential, and the first paragraph would also say full potential as opposed to success. That's what I was getting at. I'm sorry.
You're talking about the first line, exists for the success of its consumers by coordinating persons and.
Right.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Got that.
Right. I just wanted to make that.
I'm lost. Tell me, we're in number.
I'm sorry. I'm not doing that right.
Would you like me to summarize it, Commissioner Melfress?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
you could.
Sure. So his suggested edits, by the way, we are trying to replace in our documents the word consumers with individuals or person or people, because that's consistent with the language of the disability service agencies across the United States at this point. So I do appreciate you catching that for us. And so going to your edits, the very last word on the first line of the document is success. So what you're suggesting is that we replace that word success with full potential to be consistent with the language lower in the document.
That's right.
And then on the second line, replace consumers with clients,
That's right.
which I think is also acceptable. You're talking about, kind of that fiduciary role with clients. We do use the word individuals, people, or persons.
Well, let me jump in. Let me ask a question here. The term fiduciary or fiduciary responsibility is a term of art in law, and it carries an excruciatingly fine requirement on the part of the fiduciary to the point that it goes beyond an administrative relationship. For instance, your investor or let's say your insurance agent is not a fiduciary, but if he assumes the responsibility of fiduciary, that throws upon the fiduciary, that is the insurance agent, more responsibility in the eyes of the law than a business relationship. I don't know if you want that. I don't know if you want to be a fiduciary. That means if something goes wrong, Barry Malpass can be sued individually. I think before we throw the word fiduciary out, even if it's not in the document, you almost, I mean, if you're using the word client in the sense of now a lawyer and his client, his or her client, that's a fiduciary. There are other fiduciary relationships that can be created legally in as a legal document that the person that might be an investor where he's taking your money, she's taking your money and investing and if you look at case law in South Carolina, one of the most embarrassing moments of my life as a first year law student in Professor Freeman's class was missing the fiduciary question. And lo and behold, man, that was on the bar exam. That's just all over the place in terms of the depth of responsibility. So the point I'm trying to make is usually a member of a board of directors of a business corporation, they're not a fiduciary to the stockholders, for instance, not even that. Now, they might be interpreted based on the kind of stock there is, based on other things, but normally you don't want to be a fiduciary because it is inherently powerful. And I mean, if Mary Poole came up with the idea of a fiduciary, I would say, Mary, you don't want to do that. That you're in charge of DDSN as the director, but if you're a fiduciary, that means you're taking on another level of responsibility way above your responsibilities of management and doing the best job you can do. What I would like, and Barry, I'm not trying to pick at your words that you use, but since these recordings are part of the record, somebody could go back and pull this, and if the assumption is being made that kind of going along with the word client, that creates a fiduciary relationship, that is a big deal. And I want to make sure that we're all kind of have our antenna up, because rather than use that term, we may be, I'm not saying don't use the term client. I'm saying that we should avoid the complementary idea that we become fiduciaries thereby.
Okay, I understand. It may be too strong a term, because it is a very strong term.
We seem to use the word. I mean, I knew the word consumer. I mean, because they're basically consuming the services that we offer. It does. Individual, I think would be fine, but consumer, I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? I think consumer can be very confusing to the normal person, but it is, if you look, it's also under number 1, under A, B, and C. It's used again in the last paragraph, and it's used
Could you get the microphone closer to you, please?
I'm sorry. It just seems that the word consumer is used a lot. Tell me, Dave, what do you feel the fiduciary responsibility of the consumer? I mean, what would that relationship be?
The consumer himself has no fiduciary relationship.
Okay.
But if you say, and then it's recorded in records, that when you change a word and it's now client, that creates a coincidental new responsibility of fiduciary. What I'm trying to get the committee to see is that ramps up responsibility and maybe takes it to a level nobody else in the state in any other facet of government has. But you can see,
well, if that's the case, we don't want to go that strong. Okay, I understand that.
So my suggestion would be to substitute consumer in those 4 instances, 1, 2, 3, 4 instances on the page with some conjugation of individual supported, because that would be consistent with how we use our language and all of the other documentation. Would that be a logical proposal to use that?
Yeah, that would be to me. There is one other thing that I do want to ask about changing. That's far more important to me than anything we've talked about so far, and that is number 4, it says funding accountability will be maintained and enforced. I think it should say, it could say that, but it also needs to say that DDSN is a regulatory agency with, and funding will be, we need to say that we are a regulatory agency, because we are a regulatory agency, and I really believe it needs to say that in number 3, or at least somewhere in number 4, even number 1. But it needs to say that we are a regulatory, I mean, the first letter under number 4 should be that we are a regulatory agency, or the last letter, one of the two, it don't matter to me. But I really think it needs to say that we're a regulatory agency. Because we are a regulatory agency.
What I'm game for whatever you said. That's fine about regulatory with me.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, well then we'll put that we're a regulatory agency and funding will be maintained and enforced.
Okay.
Funding accountability will be maintained and enforced.
Excuse me, but can I just interject? The word consumer, the word client was used many, many years ago that to reflect when we were speaking about those we support. Now we use the word consumer. We've used it for what, 10, 15 years? And it's always been a struggle. It's not been a favorite word of mine, because I used to say that I support, and I named the person that I supported. But when you're talking about large groups of people, you kind of have to come up with a term. We would like to move towards individual or person supported and get away from the idea of consumer. But I think that's a larger discussion for the commission as a whole, not really in the policy committee. But we can put that, well, maybe we get a minute that we can talk about such things. We can move towards that discussion as to how do we reference our individuals or the folks that we support. And maybe consumer is not a good word. It's just the word that's been used for a long time. So basically, that's kind of where the language is at this moment. We can change that language moving forward.
We've been inserting it. We've been
Person
replacing
supported,
person supported, person, people.
individuals, yeah. And no, not
revisions, we've been already doing that.
right, okay.
Yeah.
So that's going to change, but we really don't want to go back to use the word client, because it makes it sound like that person is still being, quote, taken care of in a way that is not showing that it's their desires that are going to be supported moving forward. So, and I'm probably not saying that as eloquently as it could be said. I just wasn't prepared to talk about that today. So, but I do believe that we've already been changing that language to change the culture of how we support people and make sure that it's more person-centered. So, okay.
So we want to, so you want us to leave it as
Well,
customer.
what I'm saying is that we're just taking that word out and putting in person supported or individuals, whichever word fits best in the sentence. True?
Yes, that's what I'm asking for.
So
I have no issue with that.
so then what
Okay.
would the first, so then what would the first paragraph say?
The South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs exists for, I guess, for the, well, go ahead, Janet.
The South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs exists to coordinate person-centered services and programs for persons with an intellectual disability, related disability, autism, head and spinal cord injuries, so that each person supported may reach his or her full potential.
Yeah, to take the word success, you got to put full potential, you got to flip the sentence.
Yeah.
Oh, they wanted success, that's not full potential.
No. To take success out, you had to flip the sentence just like.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, that's fine. If I can get changed full potential for success, that's good. And
Okay.
but most particularly the regulatory agency part in number C of number 4.
That reads, the commission expects DDSN as a regulatory agency to utilize all available.
No, it would say that we are a regulatory agency with funding accountability will be maintained and enforced. Or we could just say number A could be we are that DDSN is a regulatory agency, and then we could just list the other three like they are now. I just wanted to be in there that we're a regulatory agency because we are, and it needs to be in our policy.
Sure, we can insert that.
I think when Janet said this, she said the commission expects GDSN as the regulatory agency to utilize all available funds. Would that be okay?
Starts number 4.
Start it at number 4, and then the rest of it can stay exactly the way it is.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
So it
Sorry.
inserts it in there. It just blends it in a little bit better than creating it in a listing. So, okay.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'm sorry, I didn't get that. You know, we have a delay with the video. Okay, so with those 2 small changes, do we have a motion to accept the ends policy?
I'll move.
I second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. No further discussion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the executive limitations policy. This actually could be done in executive session, but we can do it now, I guess. I just wanted David's input on one. I think it was this one. It might be another policy. Let me see. It's one of Mary's policies, but I'm not sure if it's this one. Y'all can see what we've talked about the changes we talked about making that in the red on this policy now. One thing that I would ask that we say in here is that, sorry, I'm in a meeting, gotta go. I'll call you back. One thing that I wanted to say in here is that it says on number 6, it says that the executive director is asked to clearly present information necessary for monitoring and making decisions and for policy deliberations. Could we put in there and try to make an effort to say without abbreviation? The abbreviation is not the right word, but we have a lot of.
You're talking about summarization.
What?
Number 6.
You're talking about summarization.
No, not summarization. When you shorten something by using 2 or 3 letters and you don't say what the word is.
Yeah, acronyms.
Acronym, I'm sorry. That's right. So could we say with less acronyms or with no acronyms? Because I think it'd be better for not only for us as commission members, but for everybody that's listening in the public.
I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, what number was that?
That's number 6.
That was, yeah, page 2, number 6, when it starts clearly present information. So you're asking to add after deliberations without using acronyms wherever possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can summarize the word acronym with ANY. That was a joke.
Please.
That was a little humor. I'm sorry. I just had to say
That's all right. It's good stuff.
Okay. Is there any other? It says the only other thing on the policy I was going to mention is, do we want to change this number either higher or lower, or leave it the same as it is now? It says present to the commission for approval prior to implementation of any recommendation for positions, programs, or divisions that result in a cost of the position exceeding 200,000. So the only other question I would have is, does anybody do we want to make that higher or lower, or leave it the same?
Which one is that? Do you know the number on it right
It
now?
is 3C.
3C.
Sorry, I was trying to find them.
Just kind of the biggest part of this thing to me, it seems like, or not the biggest, but a part of this thing.
Okay.
So do we want to leave it the same, or do we want to change either one of those at all? We
So
can
we
leave it
move
the
that
same
one
as fine with me. I'm not saying I'm not upset about any of that. I'm just pointing it out so we'll know for sure before we move on.
Maybe we could flip number A and number C. Is that what you're asking, maybe, Barry?
Oh, you mean like the numbers?
Yes, just
Within-
put C is A and A is C.
You mean for the amounts? Or you mean just the position?
Just move the position of it.
Or you can do that if you want.
Within number 3, you would move C to the position that 3A is.
That's correct.
I have no problem with that. I was mainly talking about the amounts of money, but it's fine to leave it the same.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you were talking about the location of it. I'm
Well,
sorry.
not so much the location. I was talking about the amounts of money, but either one.
What
I
Barry,
mean, we can move the location if you think it reads better. That's fine. I have no problem with any of that.
Barry, we had, ma'am, this is David. We had at a previous commission meeting said that on a quarterly basis, anything that had been shifted or moved, I think it was less than 200, under executive authority must be shown to the commission or whatever, so that we are always aware of what had been done with all the monies. Is that in here anywhere?
Well, it is changed to that because it says, isn't it, Susan? Doesn't it say, let me see.
So under 3A, I believe that, and Chris Clark's here, maybe he can help me refresh my memory, but I think what you all were talking about was the
contract.
Yeah, receiving updates on contract expenditures and how that reporting would go on. Currently doesn't reference anything quarterly here. I'm not sure if we have a staff suggestion of an edit for that. I'm staring at Chris, hopefully. But under 3A right now, it just says present to the commission for approval any contracts for procurement when the full contractual amount exceeds $200,000, including contract adjustments based on consumer choice.
Yeah, if you wanted to add some wording in there, basically my understanding is for those contract amendments that are below 200,000 individually, that a quarterly summary should be presented to the commission for all amounts not reaching the individual approval level. And if you want that in the directive, that's what our practice is currently. And if you want it documented in the policy, then that's what I would recommend. We do something similar to that.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Chairman, I think we take what we voted on back about 3 months ago. You could take that wording and just add it on, and that would then be part of your the policy.
I second that agreement.
Okay, motion made and seconded to add what we voted on. I believe that would have been probably February's meeting. I think it's either January or February's meeting, just so y'all know where that came from. And it basically says that we're to quarterly to anything less. Chris is right. It says anything less than 200,000 would be sent to the commission. Really, as I don't know so much as approval, but really as a
No, it was for information.
For information.
Yeah, it was for information.
Well, I was just wondering, one of the problems with this policy is it's got so long and convoluted, it's hard to follow. I don't want to break a policy, but I also want to follow standard practice. To me, when you have something that you've requested to be put into the commission meeting every month, even like the way Gary likes to set up the agenda and make sure we capture old business. I mean, y'all voted on that. Should we put it in this policy? I don't think so. We should put it down what the commission expects to be presented to them at a commission meeting. If there's some way we can document that, it'd be easier to follow. You can put it in here. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. We're going to provide that to you. But if you have expectations for what information you want to see on a regular basis, quarterly, yearly, 6 months, you know what I'm saying, that if we could some way document that where it's not buried in a policy somewhere, I think it'd be clearer. Or if we wanted
Well,
to,
I love that. So let's do them both. We put it in the policy and then document it however you want to. That's a great idea.
That would be a procedure, correct?
Yes.
yes, ma'am. And that way, any incoming commission could change its procedure to get what they wanted, what they felt they were needing. If a future commission decided they needed X, Y, and Z, then a procedure could be easily flipped to be able to put all that stuff in there.
Yeah, let the policy then state that at least on a quarterly basis, the commission would have the amounts that have been shifted based on the lesser amount of the threshold under 200,000, and that it may receive information more often upon request of the commission. That's it. Then they can get it. That's probably it allows the commission to request the information on a monthly basis if they vote to do that.
How about in whatever way they see fit?
Well, in keeping with the here's the point. You don't want a commission to go 2 years and never see a shift of numbers and then have to account for, let's say they get called in front of the legislature, how's this money get used? And oh, well, we never see that. Well, what do you mean you never see that?
But that's why you have a monthly finance committee meeting, and you also have a finance.
You have members. No, Mary, you have members that are not on the finance committee that don't hear these numbers. The finance committee itself. Listen, I'm just insisting on this. We've already voted. Mary, we've already voted on this. This should not be a matter of discussion. We voted already on this. It should go in the policy at the very least.
Okay.
I'm not arguing with you, sir. I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are. I don't know why you're insisting.
I apologize. I'm
not. This road. You keep on arguing against it.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll add it to the. You have it, Susan.
Sure. We've made some notes, and then we can also listen to the recording at this section and get that down.
I mean, if this can't be ready in 2 days, it'll be fine to wait till next month to be approved.
It'll be fine. It's really just
no public comment. No. This is a commission policy.
Yeah, our goal would be if you feel like this is in good shape and you decide to approve today, then we would be able to send it to the commission in the morning to review, and then you would be able to report on it in the commission meeting Thursday. So I'll work on that, and Janet's here taking really good notes too. And
we just need to make sure that how we voted on it before is what's in here is what we're getting.
Exactly.
Chris researching that. Chris will help us with that as well. We'll get it from the minutes and then just squeeze it in there the right way so it makes sense in the language. The other thing in that section, if you don't mind, and we'll do a little cleanup, I do see the word consumer in here as well on that third line of that section. So I'd like to just clean consumer out as well, if that's okay.
Okay. If anybody's got anything, I don't have anything on the next page. I have something on the last page of this policy, but I don't have anything on the next page. So if anybody's got anything on the next page, tell me now, because I'm trying to move to the last page. David, you there? You all right?
I'm here. I'm here. What page are you on?
Well, I just skipped the second page because I didn't have anything on it. The one that says, the third page, because I didn't have anything to add or subtract or anything else on it, except what's already there. And I was just moving to the last page of it, but we can go over it if you want, if we need to. But the last page of it is a couple of things I wanted to bring to our attention, not necessarily change or not change. I just want to bring it to our attention.
So are you on page 4 now?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I wanted to say about page 4 was that I wonder if the interim director, the audit director, should, since they are since they directly talk to the commission, should they serve at the pleasure of the commission? It does not say that. I would think they would serve at the pleasure of the commission, but they don't. The audit internal audit director.
I apologize, Barry. Which number are you on? I know we're on
Page 4 under
yeah.
6. I mean, it says it's now changed to 11 on our stuff that we printed. It says oversee the internal audit.
I got it. I'm sorry. Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Director administratively. I'm just wondering if we should say that since he reports to us directly, I just wonder if he should serve at the pleasure of the commission, because it doesn't say that.
Right now, that second sentence reads, the state director shall obtain commission consent before hiring or firing the internal audit director. So is that the sentence you're questioning?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I'm just asking. I'm questioning it. I'm not saying that it's not a big deal to me, but it just seems to me that if he serves to us, that if he reports directly to us, then we should be the one to do it. But I'm not saying we should, and necessarily, but I'm just asking the question.
So it would read how then, basically, Barry? Let me make sure I'm following you.
It would say that that the audit director would serve at the pleasure of the commission, and that the executive director would obtain commission consent before hiring or firing him. In other words, it would just make that clearer that at any time we can vote to get rid of him, even rather the executive director ask for consent or not, basically, is what it would do. She could ask us for consent, but it would also give us the authority to do it at any time we wanted to, because they report directly to us. And I mean, that's the only thing I was going to say, but it doesn't have to.
So you would say the state director, let's see.
I would say before it would say that the audit director serves at the discretion of the commission, and that the audit director, the state director, shall obtain commission consent before hiring or firing the internal audit director. It just makes that a stronger sentence, is all.
I think it makes it clearer. Probably it would.
Make it clearer is what I was getting at.
And so the commission could fire the guy. Is that it?
That's
or
right.
Hire the guy?
Or it says that the executive director has the authority. Has to let us know anyway. But it would also give us the authority to do it too, which I think we should have. It just makes it clearer. It obviously gives us the authority because it says.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I'll make the motion.
Things for not to be ambiguity. I hate ambiguity, and I just like things to be clear. That's all.
Well, Chairman, I make the motion then to adopt your language.
I'll say.
Thank you very much. Do you have it, Susan? What I'm trying to do? I'm trying to say that the commission, that the audit director serves at the pleasure of the commission, and that the state director shall obtain.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's the motion, and it's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? Okay. The next item I was going to ask about, and I promise I'm getting through this as quick as I can. We're going to be a while today. I'm sorry, but it's important stuff. The number, David, I wanted you to look at number 14, and say, you'll see what we decided to do, what we're recommending, what Susan's recommending that we do, and it takes out a couple of words that I don't know if we might need to leave in.
All right, number 14 on page 4, right?
That's correct.
All right, could we, let's see, present, you want to read it?
I can. Present to the commission for approval any recommendations, changes to the existing law or proposed legislation prior to taking any action to initiate.
And I presume you want me to speak to it because I'm chairman of the legislative committee?
That's right. And I want to see if you think we should leave in where it says requesting changes from the General Assembly.
Y'all are going to have to excuse me for, I mean, since I served for 28 years in the Senate, I mean, I don't want to find myself ever in front of a Legislative Audit Council or a Ways and Means Committee group or something like that, or Senate Finance Subcommittee, having to answer questions that are like, well, I don't know, or what, you know, that are embarrassing to DDSN and to me. So I appreciate you letting me kind of focus in on this. All right, present to the commission for approval any recommendation. Now that would be a recommendation on our part.
Right.
All right, so we're recommending to the legislature changes to the existing law or proposed legislation prior to taking any action to it. So you're just saying that it comes to us for approval before we make a recommendation. And when you say taking any action to initiate, does that mean DDSN to initiate something
Well,
before?
it means for this is a Mary policy, so it means that what I'm concerned about is we're saying requesting changes from the General Assembly. We're saying we want to take that out, and I want to know if we want to take that out, because if we're, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm wondering if Mary should mention to us whenever she's requesting changes from the General Assembly.
Well, I think that's
how it takes that out.
Well, I think that's initiating. I think what that's saying is before they start writing a policy or getting something ready to go for legislators to look at, that they are bringing it to us. Am I correct in that?
Yes, initiating any changes to existing law or proposed legislation.
Before it ever goes to the legislature, before you ever discuss it with them, you're bringing it to us in a summary form saying, okay, this is what we want to do. Can we move forward? Is that correct?
Yeah, if that's what that means, then that's what we ought to do, because otherwise we'd get caught by surprise at something that might seem pretty obvious to the staff, but if we're caught not knowing what it is, then that would be pretty embarrassing for the commissioners to have never heard of a legislative change that was being proposed.
Yeah, I think before they take it anywhere or prepare anything in writing, they need to come ask us, can we make this change? Or can we begin this process?
Okay, well, the only question I have is, why are we taking out requesting changes from the General Assembly?
Because it should never get that far until we approve it already, based on a code to us.
Is that so? Okay, well then okay, well that if I might be confused about what this is saying then. Okay,
it's just a phrasing. I mean, that's where the any changes or proposals to legislation would occur, but we're just changing the phrasing. It's not really changing the procedure. We're just trying to be more explicit in the language. So,
yeah, I mean, you say proposed legislation means that it's ready to go to the General Assembly. They bring it to the commission. Now, do we want to say approval, or do we want to say, I mean, or do we want to say shall be brought to the commission for review?
will we say review and approval,
I think it needs to say review and approval.
or not? Are you saying not approval, David?
I'm just wondering. I mean, do we? Sometimes
I was kind of referring to this to you, this number 14, because it just seems like it's got you written all over it to me.
Yeah, but let's suppose that our lawyer and some folks come up with some technical language or whatever, and it's just rubber stamp stuff. In which case, we've got a lot of so-called rubber stamp that is going through. So I don't have a problem with approval and recommendation or whatever. So that, I mean, I can't imagine the commission giving staff a hard time about kind of standard things that should be modified. But at the very least, it should be reviewed, and preferably, maybe I'm talking myself out of just a review, and to have approval, any recommendations. Okay, that makes sure that we're in the loop and on the hook.
Right.
And on the hook.
Right. So it should say, so it's like Stephanie just said, it should say approval and recommendation. I mean,
Review and approve.
And
okay,
review.
make the motion to, Stephanie, you can.
I'll move to take out the word vote and add the word review and before approval in number 14.
I second the motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded, no further discussion. Moving on. The last thing on this policy that I wanted to bring up, and obviously we can bring up anything else you'd like to, is I believe that the bylaws say executive committee, although it also, but here we have officers. But it may say both in the bylaws, but I can't, because I can't remember right now. I've read them a while back, but I didn't read them before I did this. But I just want to make sure that was consistent with the bylaws. And then I wanted to say that where it says that the commission or the officers or the commission chairperson, whenever prior to implementation of an internal policy. This is number 15, by the way. I think it should just say that by the officers instead of by the officers or the commission chairperson. It should say just by the officers of the commission, which means it'd be by the secretary, chairman, and vice chairman's approval until they could bring something to the commission. In other words, it shouldn't say or. It should say just. We should take out the word chairman there and put chairperson there and just say for the officers.
I think that the reason it probably read that way when it was first entered is because there are emergency situations that certainly the commission wanted to have some awareness of that would, be talked about at the next scheduled meeting, but that it wasn't always possible to convene with all the officers prior to making that change. So,
well, we wouldn't convene the officers. We would just do it by phone, and it doesn't have to be recorded and all that. I mean, it could be a minute if you needed it, but I mean, we wouldn't have to have it in a recorded. We wouldn't have to be in this situation right now. We could just be over the phone and take minutes and do it. I just think it should be one or the other. And it certainly shouldn't be only the chairman. So I think it should be all three members of the executive committee is all I'm getting at. Or I call it executive committee because I believe that's what the bylaws say, but maybe it's just officers.
I'm reading the bylaws now and it says officers of the commission shall consist of a chair, vice chairman, and secretary. It doesn't refer to executive, and that's why we suggested the change there.
Okay.
And then secondly, I just want to be sure. So if you all are discussing, in a scenario where a time-sensitive decision has to be made, we're not waiting for a commission meeting for approval, but the state director would have to hold a series of phone calls with each officer, and maybe have to circle back.
No, not each officer. All three of them would be on the phone at the same time.
So if you convene a group of commissioners, you have to conform with the South Carolina FOIA, right? I'm looking at Constance.
Yeah.
Well,
becomes a
yes
formal
and no, but I mean, you could still have three members on the phone and they could take minutes and it could be a meeting. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be. Actually, the majority of the commission is not a meeting, but if it's not a majority of the commission, is not a meeting. But we certainly could convene all three of the executive committee, and they could, and one of the members of the executive committee could take notes, and that could be meeting notes. It doesn't have to be that only the chairman would make that decision. We can move on. I'm not dying on this one either. We can leave it alone, but I just feel like it should say one or the other, because right now it says either one. So even if we wanted to make it just the chairman, it'd be better than saying both. But I think it should be it should either be the chairman or the executive committee. And I mean, I'm sorry, either the chairman or the officers, but I think it should be officers, but that's just my opinion. But I'm not, I don't want to stay on it for an hour, so, you know, it's fine.
Commissioner Malfers, are you also saying that we need to add the word telephone call? Because frequently these things are done via email.
No, I'm not, no, I didn't say that. I didn't mean that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, ideally you would do it by phone call, but it wouldn't have to be, you know.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
I was just trying to
All right.
work through the scenario to make sure we could meet any requirements if the flexibility was removed. And I think that was I'm just speaking from one staff member. You know, we've been through situations where we've had to institute changes because DHHS has done something very quickly. And I know no one would want it to be very cumbersome, but certainly, you know, be as formal as you could be. So I think the goal would be to inform, you know, appropriately, but without having to convene and follow formal meeting procedures. That's the whole purpose of this. So that's just my 2 cents. It's certainly up to all of you.
I like the word officers, and I think we can take executive committee out of there. And I'd say leave commission chairperson for now. It may be something we want to come back and look at in the future, but with the uncertainty of the world we live in today, I would obviously like the chair to be the first person that's contacted on that list of officers. Can that be added in there somehow? With a priority being given to the commission chairperson?
Well, I guess you can, but I just don't see why you just don't let it be the commission chairperson at that point. But anyway, because right now it says or, and I don't understand why it says or. Anyway, but okay, we can just say we can do that with the priority of the chairperson and just leave it there.
Okay, is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. You got what you mean, Susan?
Yeah, priority will be given to consulting with the commission chairperson.
Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. That's all I had on this policy, unless somebody else has something else. Is there a motion to approve the changes to the
So moved.
to the executive limitations policy? So moved. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay.
Chairman, how many members of the commission do we have? I mean, are there 7? Is it supposedly empty
7.
seats? But is it 7?
Yep. Yes, sir.
You know, in an age of email and texting, officers would be who?
The officers right now would be it's the chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. So right now it would be Gary and me as vice chairman, and Robin would be the officers. And
here's the question I've got. This is not like you're having to consult with 127 or 29 members of the House of Representatives, or how many ever members there are, and get a quorum. It's just 7 people. I mean, what's wrong with an email to 7 people? When it says attempt to, this is like we lived back in 1840s. I'm watching for the 3rd time, 1776. The famous it's called that's the name of the play. 1776. A movie was made out of it. And when you had, you know, mail that would go at a very slow pace, you know, to get from Boston to Philadelphia or whatever, attempt to communicate with. Come on, just, you know, communicate, you know, just to send an email. What's wrong with you know, this email is to inform Barry Malthus about boom, boom. I find it necessary too. And if we all put down our official email, why raise it to the level of 3 guys out of 7 know what's going on?
well, the other option is to make it 1, which is what you're doing now, because you're saying
the other option is to say there will be an attempt by the director to communicate with all members of the commission. That's it. I mean, and if you want to put in the by email, if direct communication is impossible or cannot be accomplished. I just don't see, with 7 people, why are we leaving anybody out? That's why I'm having trouble with this.
I don't disagree with you, David. I think that's reasonable. You know, the only thing is if I hate to even think this way, but you know, if we lose power or lose, you know, ability to communicate, I can't imagine that lasting any period of time in the state. So I'd say an attempt to contact all commissioners.
Yep. If power's out, power's out. You know, but she attempted. That's fine.
Yeah, attempts.
I would never, you know, even in COVID, even in all the crazy COVID stuff, we got email going and we got texting going.
Yeah.
And you can leave me a text message, and you know, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to see the text message in 15 minutes.
That's right.
But we got it. This is the point of this, though, is an emergency. We have to vote, and she has to get, you know, and it's only until the next commission meeting, by the way, is what this policy says. It's only whatever this is would occur until the next commission meeting when we brought it up is what
Well,
the policy says.
it's the attempt. I mean, there doesn't have to be a vote.
No vote.
Right.
Yeah, no, you don't have to vote. You just attempt to tell everybody what's going on.
It's just sort of like a status update about a decision that had to be
Has this
made by
ever
the
been,
director to implement.
has this ever been used?
Yes, the thing that comes to mind is there was some change in Medicaid targeted case management that had to be instituted immediately because of a process change, and that normally would have waited for a commission meeting to be and do a presentation, inform, and get a vote. But that had to be communicated, and it was just, I do believe it was emailed, and it was fine. So what I'm hearing is the suggestion. The second sentence would read, the state director is encouraged to attempt to contact all commissioners whenever possible prior to implementation of the interim policy. Is that what you all are meaning?
That's not even a mandate. So she you know, is encouraged.
You want to leave it loose like that, but substitute contact all commissioners,
Yes.
is what I was hearing. Is that where you all are?
Yeah, that works.
Right. Well, we're just taking out officers and putting all commission members in.
Yeah.
Are you, David, you still gonna make it a priority to do the chairman, right? I mean, that's what she said first. Is that what you want to do, or you want to say, or you want to take that out too and just say all commission members?
I just want to say all commissioners. Just send a blast email with 7 names on it to our official email address. And if you don't get it, you don't get it. I mean, that's our responsibility to check our box.
I agree.
Okay, well, just take out chairman and put entire commission in, Susan.
Got it.
Okay, so David, that's your motion, I'm assuming. So we need
That's my motion.
We took the other one off. I'm taking the other one off the floor then officially. So
I'm sorry. Yes, my motion.
Okay, so motion made. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Hearing no further discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Do I need to do another motion for the policy in general? Because that moves on to the next policy. So do I need to do another motion and second for the whole policy?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept that policy with the changes we have added and amended to it.
Probably right.
Second, Chairman.
Motion made and seconded for that policy. Hearing no further discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Next item on the agenda is the staff linkage delegation policy. The only one I was going to ask about was Well, on the
So
first page, the only thing I was going to ask about was,
Commissioner Melford, can I just interject while you're thinking about that? What we did as a recommendation and review of these commission policies, we're bringing forth a recommendation to you, your committee, to mark this current staff linkage delegation policy 800-04 obsolete, because we've dissected it to take the portions of it that were non-duplicative in the executive limitations policy. We put those in there. You've seen those insertions, and anything left over was either just a repetition or something that was obsolete. So that's the recommendation, is to make sure that we cleaned this up and inserted what we needed to in executive limitations, and then this policy would be marked obsolete.
okay, well, let me just ask if this is in there somewhere before we move on. It says in here that I'm trying to wait 1 second. It says on the number 3, it says, as long as this delegation is in place, it will be respected by the commission. And it says any unresolved concerns with interpretation of policies will be addressed through clarifying amendment of the policies. Shouldn't it say will be addressed any way the commission sees fit, or should it not say that?
Yeah.
Under number, I mean, or where would this be in the new policy would be a better way to put it, because we're really looking at an obsolete policy in a way.
I'm sorry, what page are we on? I'm lost.
We're on 800-04, page 1, number 3. And as you see, the comment next to that in blue was discard because it appeared to be taken care of in executive limitations and the processes in place there. It didn't
Okay,
seem
it's
to be
page
something
what?
that needed to be inserted.
Page what?
It's page 8 if you're looking at the PDF. If you're in your binder that you were mailed, it would be the third yellow tab, which is the first page of 800-04 CP, which is the staff linkage directive, and we're on number 3 within that first page.
All right, so it'd be the third yellow tab.
Yes.
Right. And we're on the next policy, which is 800-04 CP, which is going to be obsolete after today. And so but she's saying we just want to delete that out because it's already been covered. I'm not sure where, I mean,
there wasn't necessarily a spot to insert it. If you think the sentiment is needed in executive limitations, it could certainly be inserted, but it really didn't say very much of anything that was very useful.
No, not really.
That was sort of our read on it from a staff perspective.
Okay. Well, then on the last page of it, let me see if there's something else. The only other thing I was going to ask about is it says that where does it say now, number D of page 2 on this document we're on now, which is obviously, David, is the next page of the document we're on now. Number D, where does it say that in the new policy that this one is, if this one is?
It doesn't, because that, you're reading the 5D, which says inclusion in appropriate directives, those statements listed in rescinded commission policies. So that just means used to be a lot of other commission policies that were rescinded, meaning no longer were in practice. And so at the time when that was inserted into this policy, any of that content was put into other directives and policies. So it would be impossible for me to track what happened back then, but it's irrelevant at this point for it to exist in any policy, because that's an act that was already completed.
Okay, all right.
We don't know what any of those, I mean, existing staff have not been using or aware of those old commission policies. They've been out of circulation. Probably it refers something to 2007. So they're long gone.
Okay, the only thing the last thing on this policy I wanted to mention, which I thought was important, and the most important thing of it to me, is that, and I don't know where this is in the new policy, but I want to make sure it is there.
Okay.
It's the last sentence of this policy, which says that no directive is interpreted to limit commission members' rights or as citizens, or to in any way limit. I wanted to say no directive is, this directive is not interpreted, or no directive is interpreted to limit commission members' rights as citizens, or to in any way limit their authority given by the governor or the commission. I think that is very important that we put that somewhere in this policy, in this new policy that we're creating, if we're going to get rid of this one.
Okay, so that doesn't currently exist anywhere else, so you need to find a spot to insert it. And also, I believe there's a missed term in there. This would really apply to commission policies. Directives refer to basically what we're requiring staff and contractors to do. So I believe whichever edit you choose, it should say no commission policy is to be interpreted to limit commission members' rights as citizens or hinder their fiduciary duties, and then whatever else you just added to it. So I think that was
right. But we got it. We getting away from the word fiduciary duty due to what David said, and so I was going to leave that out too.
What's your suggested edit?
My suggested edit is to say that no directive or
Commission
no policy or directive, or no policy, directive, or statement of any kind. I mean, no policy or directive, or what's the other thing we use? Not policies or directives. What's the other word?
Procedure.
Regulation.
What?
Procedure.
Regulation.
Procedure or regulation, yeah. No directive, policy, procedure, or regulation is interpreted to limit commission members' rights as citizens, or to in any way limit their authority given by the governor or the commission. Or by the governor or the commission, yeah. I wanted to be clear that we're not limited in any way in any of these policies.
Okay. I have that language.
And I think that should be the last sentence of the policy.
Which policy?
The one that we are getting rid of. I mean, the one that we're combining with we're getting rid of this policy and combining it with the other one. And I wanted to be the last paragraph of that one that we're combining.
Executive limitations. So executive limitations is, again, giving marching orders to the state director. So I would just question whether giving safety and parameters to the commission within a directive that provides marching orders for the director would be location. I'm trying to rack my brain and think where it might fit better.
Well,
Could you not put that
Such as in the ends policy maybe, or somewhere like that.
Could it not go in 800-06 CP somewhere?
no, that's the video recording policy.
Oh, no. 800-07 CP. Maybe, yeah.
maybe it goes in the ends policy, but it goes, I mean, it wouldn't hurt for that to be in every policy, but I won't bother. I mean, maybe it goes in the ends policy, but it needs to go somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't want to get rid of that.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Okay.
We don't need to be limited in any way.
Okay.
That's
So
got to be added somewhere.
there is another policy which is not on your agenda called governance process policy. That's mostly focusing just on, as it says, process. So I don't think it fits there. I think just looking, Janet, tell me if you have other ideas. There's the ends policy, which we reviewed first. That's to me the best contender. We've already reviewed executive limitations, and again, that's marching orders for the state director. So parameters about the commission, and there's a little bit of a logical lapse there, I think, maybe. We're marking this one obsolete. The only other commission policies, there's the Public Invocation Act, which that doesn't sound appropriate. Then there's the video recording, which doesn't sound appropriate.
No.
There's commission bylaws, but we're not.
Well, I think actually, when we ever get to the bylaws, which I don't really want to make any changes to the bylaws except how easy it is to change them. I don't think it should be nearly as easy to change them as it is. But other than that, when we get to that, we should put it in there too. But for now, let's put it in the ends policy. And maybe 6 months from now, we'll also add it to it wouldn't hurt to be 2 places. We could add it in the ends policy and in the bylaws at some point. It does not hurt to be 2 places, as many policies as we have. It doesn't hurt to be 5 places, really, this don't. But, I guess the ends policy is the right place.
Okay.
But we need to go back to the ends policy and approve that then, that addition.
You could make a motion right now for that to happen without having to go back to the ends policy.
I'll move for it to be moved to the ends policy.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, do I need to read it again, or you got it, Susan?
I have it. We're going to say no commission policy, directive, procedure, or regulation is to be interpreted to limit commissioner members' rights as citizens or to in any way limit their authority given by the governor or commission.
Or the commission, yeah.
Or the commission. Got it.
Or this commission. Or this commission.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, and we'll insert that as the last item in the ends policy. That's what I'm hearing.
There you go, that's right. Okay, is there, well, we just motioned seconded. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries again. The next item is one that I asked to be brought up, which was the just to clarify, to make it more, well, literally to clarify, to make it more uniform to what we do now. It's the but there's a couple of words I need to insert that I'm not sure how I want to insert it.
I need to know, Chairman, where are we on the agenda?
I'm sorry, we're at the video recording policy.
Okay.
Which is next if you turn the page from where we were. If you're using your printed version. I'm sorry. We're on 800-06 CP, which is the video recording and minutes recording retention of TDSN. Are we ready?
Yes.
Right. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. I'm just wanting to say that, well, some of it is already said in here, and it's, you'll see the suggested edits that that Susan and I had asked about making. It says that the commission meeting minutes are completed in accordance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act and serve as the official record of the meeting. and meetings are posted on the DDSN website for 7 years. In other words, minutes are posted for 7 years. Right now, they're posted for about 15 years. And I just think it needs to be consistent with what we're actually saying. This policy has always said we were going to leave it on the website for 7 years, but right now it's about 15 on there. And I just want to make it say 7 years, and to say that they're taken by Freedom of Information Act, and to say that the minutes, and I don't know what the right word is. David may know. You there, David? I think David left.
I see his name, but the little picture's gone. He looks like he's still on.
You there, David?
There he is.
There he is.
You there, David?
Yep. Restate your question, please.
Okay. It says right now, we just added in here the red where it says that the minutes are taken in accordance to the Freedom of Information Act, and it says that they'll stay on the website for 7 years, which is what it's always said.
Right.
But my point is that we haven't always done that. That we've left it on there for a lot longer than 7 years.
Right.
And the other thing that I wanted to say that I thought was important, though, was that the minutes supersede any information on the video, any video, so that it's clear as a bell, although we do make it somewhat clear in here, but I want to be clear as a bell that the minutes supersede the video. And I'm not sure if supersedes the right word or what the right legal word is, but they are the video is subservient to the minutes. And I want to make that clear as a bell in here.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. In other words, the minutes themselves are the official document, not necessarily the video.
Right. Well, it does say the official document, but I was going to even use another sentence to say it does say the official document. It does say that now. It's going to say that on the next
Number 2 says they're not, the video is not the official.
It says it's not the official record, and that we also added that minutes are that the video is not required for a valid meeting. That's true, but either on the first one or the second one, I want to say something like the video is subservient, or the minutes are minutes supersede, or whatever the right word is right there. The video, because if there's ever a dispute,
once the minutes have been approved, and that would be at the next meeting, then the minutes trump anything else, is what you're saying.
That's
and
right.
I wouldn't get too sophisticated about it. I would just say that the minutes the approved minutes will serve as the official document concerning any action, and will not, and the video shall not be considered the official action of the commission.
All right. Well, then it says on the second. Maybe don't need to do anything else. Then maybe it just says, because it says the video recording of DDSN commissions are not the official record of the meeting and are not required to have a valid meeting, which is what I wanted to put. They're not.
That's written even better than I said it, believe it or not.
Okay, well then we'll just leave it like it is.
Leave it like it is. Yeah.
Forget that I said subservient.
That's crystal clear. I like it.
Okay. The last thing I wanted to say was that on number 4 it says, you'll see where we changed it already in the red, but it says after 2 years the link to the video will be removed from the DDSN website, and DDSN will maintain a copy of the recordings for. Right now it says 3 years, but I think it should be consistent and say 7 years, just like we do the video, just like we do the minutes. But we don't leave them on the video, as it says here. We don't leave them on the website for 7 years. We just have them available if somebody requests them, that validly requests them, that we'll have it. Because right now it says some reason it says 3 years, and it's just inconsistent with what we do with the minutes. So I just wanted to make it consistent.
I think that's a good idea. I'll move that we approve this this motion or this policy with the changes that have been shown on the paper.
In red, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I guess I can second. David is off again for a second. I know I can second. I'll second that motion and then and say those in favor. Okay, and okay, those opposed. Motion carries, and we'll wait on David for the next one. But anyway, you got it, Susan. We're just doing what we had in red.
Got it.
Okay. David, are you back with us? Oh dear.
You've got a quorum.
I guess we'll move on.
So now you're on number 5, which would be on page 11 or the 5th tab.
All right, you with us, David?
I'm here. I'm sorry. I got a phone message from my CPA, and this happens to be the day that, tomorrow is the 15th.
Oh, sorry. We just approved the video recording policy just like it was written in red.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, then the next one is something else that I wanted to bring up to make it more consistent with what it's not really what I'm proposing to do is not really changing anything. It's really just making it more clear from what we intended at the January meeting. This is the one policy this is one place where I wish Gary could have been here today because he was obviously instrumental in making this change.
Which one is this? The request to speak?
Yeah, this is the commission public input request to speak.
Yeah. Okay.
Document. It's not really a policy. I'd like to make it very at some point in the future a policy, but right now it's just a commission public input document. But it really is our information on public input. And what I was proposing is that that we put in where it says in red that it is at the discretion of the chairman to select who will speak to the commission in public during public input. Therefore, the chair can reject any individual at any time, including in the middle of a speech, because that's what we voted on in January to do.
Yeah.
And I just wanted it in this sheet.
Well, why are we not including? I mean, this was we had a long discussion on this, if you remember. It was a unanimous vote. Why are we not including it, or why don't you want to include it as policy?
I do want to include it. It's not in there now, and I'm trying to include it. That's why it's up before you now.
I apologize. Excuse me. Well, we had a long discussion about it, and it was very logically presented the problems that we face if we you want to be open and you want to be transparent. That is I think a goal that you cannot be dodged, and you don't want to. However, you can have people abuse the policy, and it turns out I'm sure you may have gone to delegation meetings before, where the delegation meeting goes on for 4 hours, and they've got 27 speakers, and each speaker just drones, and they won't stop them. So we don't want ever that to happen, because that's thwarting then the purpose of the commission and staff, and they're fiddling with you. And so you've got to give the chairman or chairwoman, you've got to give them the authority to cut things off. So we went round and round about this, but if y'all want to discuss it some more, I'm fine with that. But I'd love to go ahead and send it on, since it was an uncontested vote after we thrashed out the ideas real carefully for a long time.
Right. There's only one thing about it I wanted to add other than what's in there now, which is exactly what we were doing, was adding what we had voted on in January into this document. But the only other thing that I would like to see us add, either at the beginning of the document or at the end, and this is up to the commission, up to the committee, but I think it should say that the commission is under no legal or otherwise obligation to allow any member of any citizen or member of the public, or however you want to put it, to allow them to speak, allow them to address the commission. That this is done as a courtesy at the discretion of at the sole discretion of the commission.
I think that's not a bad idea, because we did receive an email. I don't know, I think it was addressed to all of us as commissioners, from a lady complaining about the video, her not being able to comment while we were doing these meetings over Zoom. So I think that's not a bad idea, is to make it very clear that we aren't required, but we do it as a courtesy.
Exactly. And there is a lot of ambiguity, I think, amongst particularly advocates about that. And so they need to understand that we do it as a courtesy, and that it's not required by law or anything else. I mean, it's not required by in any way. In other words, what it would say was, I assume it would say not required by law or any other. It would say that the commission has no obligation, legal or otherwise, to allow any member, any citizen, I guess we use the word citizen in here, so you'd say citizen, that we are legal or otherwise to allow any citizen of the public, or citizen, or what, not of the public, but citizen to speak, or to address the commission. Sorry.
Yeah.
Would you like Constance to be able to work on some language for you all?
I think that would be great.
Present that for the next meeting, that you would have that?
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Barry, you okay with that? And
I'd also like to add, Mary, down here where it's at administrative appeals through South Carolina DHHS are excluded, but then it goes down and it lists like date, name, address, all that kind of stuff. Down there, I would like to see added something that says subject to be discussed rather than just commission meeting item. I'd like for them to list what they want to discuss, because if we have 7 policies that are coming before the commission that they want to address, I would like to know which one they're going to address, so we don't have 5 people addressing the same policy. That way we can kind of get a variety rather than, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do. Can I traditionally, if I may,
Okay.
say that what we have done is basically take the first 5 people who signed up.
Okay.
And not too often has everything been on. Every so often you get a couple that'll speak on the same subject, but pretty much they would be all over the place. And we have also tried to accommodate folks. We're going to give it a try with this commission meeting to do a public comment via telephone, where
Okay.
we call them, they sign up the night before. We have an online form now, and then we'll be able to call them.
Okay.
And then take the first 5, limited to 7 minutes, just like we did before. So, but I think that what I found that in doing research about different county councils, how they're doing the public meeting. And one of the things that I did notice that is kind of interesting, people had to limit their comments to subject matters that were on the agenda. So, they had to do exactly what you're saying, Commissioner, that they had to actually write down what they want to speak about, and it had to be on the agenda at some point. So we can certainly add that. I might not be able to get it on the form that's going out there on the website right now, but we can always tweak that to get it on there.
Know what that way we can kind of have an understanding of what their issues are before they all come up there, you know?
Yes.
So right now it says on the bottom of this form, I wish to comment on, and they have to select one. It's either a commission meeting agenda item, or they have to indicate a specific incident or concern not on the agenda, and then they're supposed to summarize it. So
Oh,
Right.
okay. Okay.
Well, it
That
kind of
works.
says that already.
edited further?
I didn't see that last kind of.
Yeah, those last two boxes, but it sure doesn't tell you what the item is.
Right.
There's a colon, I
There's
guess.
no place for them to write it in
You
there,
could put like
Yeah,
but,
that didn't show up on mine. I'm sorry.
but the commission might want to discuss in future meetings, as you're doing this, that you would like to have the comments, you might want to limit to whatever's on the agenda versus everything, or you might want to listen to whatever folks tell you.
Well, I would think you'd want to limit it to what was on the agenda, and then if we decide to take up another agenda item at the next meeting, we could, because we have long meetings as it is. It's what my opinion there is, but I'm not. But the key thing to me is that it says, and Constance understands that it says that we are under no obligation, legal or otherwise, to allow a person to address our commission at any time.
Yes.
True.
That's the key.
The other question, is this going to
Because
be
we're
a
not.
policy, or is this just a procedure, or where?
Well,
where are
it's
we?
right now, it is just a document that they sign when they come to the commission meeting, but I do want to make it into it, parts of this into a policy in the next few months. But
Okay.
we have to clean it up and make it look better and all that. But we do want to do that. But for today, we want to try to approve this one. Well, for the meeting coming up, we want to try to approve this one so that as soon as possible, it can be for the meeting, hopefully tomorrow. But if not, I
We
mean,
can do
day after
that.
tomorrow. But if not, certainly the next one.
Okay.
And then we can make it
To answer
into
your
a
question,
policy.
it's not a policy.
Right, it's just a document, and it is posted on the website with the commission policies and documents at the current time, but we certainly could pull together that language. Constance has given me the nod. We could pull that language together and have it ready to send out in the morning, and then y'all can still discuss it on Thursday. in the commission meeting.
One more thing, let's add on there, committee meetings. Because
Yeah.
some people might want to speak in front of a committee. I think the same rules should apply. Fine, if they want to speak to something the subcommittee or a committee is taking up, they can do it under the same rules. But don't you think we should include committees within the policy?
I
It
do
should
agree
say
with that.
subcommittees or, it should say meetings or subcommittee meetings.
Yeah. It doesn't, because it needs to be added, because as I was looking through this, I just see that the full commission was the only thing referred to.
Sure, we haven't taken public input at committee meetings in the past. There has not been a section on the agenda for those. I don't know, again, it's not required, so I guess it would be stipulated as however the group wanted to.
No, right now, all the comment is taken in writing.
I think they would at least need to let us know in advance if they'd like to address a subcommittee. I don't have any problem listening to the public in a subcommittee meeting, but I would like to know in advance that they're going to be on the agenda.
Well, I don't have any problem with that either, except that we would decide whether we wanted them to or not before the meeting started, because
That's
it
right.
depends on, what they want to talk about and all that sort of thing, whether we want to get into it, because, all the things that we actually decide are not decided until the actual commission meeting anyway. So I would say that we would encourage them to come to the commission meeting, but if they had some specific reason they wanted to come, not necessarily in the policy, but I'm just saying, in general, I think the staff should say, you better off to be at the commission meeting than you are to be at a subcommittee meeting, but we're not preventing you from coming.
Yes.
Because you can't make a decision. We can't make a decision without the whole commission making a decision, really.
Yes.
So that's why I don't think they would often come to this meeting, and I would just think we would discourage them from doing it, not to say they couldn't. I'm not trying to make anybody understand I wanted to say that it's a courtesy that we're doing it, and I want it to be a courtesy to do it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being a courtesy to do it. I just want them to understand that it is a courtesy and we're not legally required to do it. And that is something that has been
With regards,
had a lot of ambiguity in the past, a lot, particularly
With
in
regards-
years past.
I'm sorry. With regards to subcommittee meetings, it is also good if they come to those meetings and they're making comments on such things as policy, it needs to be also handed to us in writing. Otherwise, we've got to transcribe their comments to include it in the running total of edits and why we did what we did. That would be a lot of staff work to have to transcribe their comments. If they would just come with those in writing, that would be most helpful to us.
Right, and the policy
Well, that's
committee
fine.
procedures actually indicate that the comments to be received on documents under revision will be submitted in writing during the comment period, and that once that external review period is over, comments are not received. So this would open it up for them to come to a committee meeting and then share comments on items, which would be contrary to that procedure.
It is, yeah.
That's right, David, and that's why, and I was kind of in favor of leaving it like it was, but if you think it's wrong to do that, we won't. But right now, I was saying that because of we weren't required to do it, we weren't going to be doing it unless they came to a commission meeting. So if you think it should be subcommittee, we can change it. But right now, it does not say that. Right now,
Yeah, I think with the addition or addendum that Mary put on, I mean, you know, if perhaps we should say that any comments before any committee or commission, well, you don't want to require them to have to, I mean, before a commission to put something in writing. But Mary, weren't you saying that they need to present anything before a subcommittee that has to do with policy? Is that what you said in writing? I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
We just need to have that kind of stuff, since we consider it, and it's a wordsmithing issue. We really would like to have their comments in writing, like they do now. They already submit them in writing.
Good.
So during a public comment period, what Susan's trying to say is by the time the committee takes up the issue, that public comment period is closed. So you kind of,
and the procedure indicates for policy committee anyway that the comments will be received during the external review period, and then they will not be received at committee meetings.
That's great.
So it's just creating a little bit of a disparity if you create another process where they can come to policy committee and give you more comments after you've just said they can't. So.
At the top of this article under commission public input, I'd like for Barry's paragraph of commission is under no legal or other obligation to allow public to address the commission. However, as a courtesy, the purpose of public input forum, you see what I'm saying? I'd like for that to be up at the top, that we are not under any obligation to do this.
Right.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Right.
well, and we're saying the subcommittee doesn't have an obligation to do it either. It'd be the same thing, except we would decide. But we are opening up kind of a can of worms if we let them come to the committee meeting. But I'm not saying we cannot.
If they do it in writing, I would be just as happy getting it in writing. If they have anything.
Well, yeah, if you say in writing, then yeah, then that's fine. Just say that it's in writing only for the subcommittees. How about that?
Yeah, I think so too.
And they can really do that now.
Yes.
Well, they sort of do that now. Yeah, that's right. So it really, I mean,
The email.
I guess you could make it clear if you wanted to. I just love making things that no ambiguity, but.
I think it's just move toward a policy.
Well, we will move this toward a policy, believe you me, but let's just fix this sheet first.
All right.
And then
we need to move to make changes.
Yeah, we need to make the changes to this sheet first and
Yes.
and approve it at the commission meeting, and then the policy committee will take this up for a policy in the next month or two.
Okay.
We'll make it a policy.
I move.
Oh, we have Stephanie's moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is it with no further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We'll try to make it a policy at the next meeting, but it may be the next, because we have a lot to do at the next meeting too. But make a note of that if you would, Susan, to try to do that for the next policy committee meeting, to make this a policy.
I have that. Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is on the next page if it's printed, but if not, it's on your computer somewhere. I like things printed. But it says it's a new committee policy committee procedure for review of policies and directives and standards approved by the commission on July 18th, 2020. This is really a new policy altogether.
Right. So at the last policy committee meeting, there was made reference to looking towards the future to have a policy drafted, which would include committee procedures for all the rest of the commission committees. So this is something that we've been kind of working on over time based on discussions with Chairman Lamel. And so I believe he reinforced in the last committee meeting that he'd like to see that happen. So this is the first sharing of what we think this commission policy would look like. And it would cover the Finance and Audit Committee, Legislative Committee, Personnel Committee, and Policy Committee. And it just so happens that Policy Committee had developed and had approved their own procedures. If this committee feels that this is the direction and the shape of this new policy, then a logical action would be to update the commission on it on Thursday, and then, you know, ask for these other committees to go forth and develop procedures, which could be added as attachments to this policy.
Okay, well, I just had a couple of edits to it that I was going to ask about, but they weren't, the primary edits were not for the policy committee. They were actually for the legislative committee. And so I guess I could just say, you're saying you would want us to approve this like it is and then have David as director of the legislative committee to make his edits to it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so ideally this is just, you know, the policy portion is saying these are the committees and they'll each have procedures, and the scope of those committees are these. And then each committee would develop and have approved their own procedures, which would be attachment to this policy. So yes, that's what we would do what the recommendation would be on Thursday is if you think this is a, you know, a new we say commission policies, a new commission policy that needed to be developed. The update for the commission on Thursday would be that we're pursuing development of this commission policy, and that it'll cover procedures for each committee. So therefore we'd be asking for each committee to proceed with developing procedures that can be inserted. So there wouldn't be anything to a document to approve today because it's incomplete.
Right, it's not complete. It's just this first go round with it.
Right.
Okay, well then that's true for the DDSN policy committee procedure thing here too, right? The next one after that is also the same, right? It's not a complete, or is this one complete?
That's just the attachment. That's the first attachment to this draft of this new policy. And what I did was just take what was approved at the last commission meeting for the policy committee procedures, and then just brush it up to make it consistent with this new commission policy. So I added the red sections, the committee meeting frequency and the committee scope, and then just cleaned up, you know, a couple other little dangling words from the last revision, and which was approved.
Okay, well, the only other thing that I wanted to say then about, well, the only two things I want to say about, do we need to make any, so can we so I guess we need to work on this one then right now because it's policy committee related, right?
Yeah, if there's something you see in it that you'd like adjusted or changed, then it would make sense to talk about it now. Because from here then you would approve, you know, continued development of it, not approval of it, because it's not in its final form.
Right. Okay. Well, then let me just say one or two quick things to say about this. One is that under the, and David, you know where we are with the commission policy committee procedure. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother. But I just asking. The next thing, the only thing I want to ask is under general, it should say that, where it talks about public comment, it should say, which is currently 10 days, because it just says during the defined public comment period. And that should probably say, which is currently 10 days, 10 business days, shouldn't it? On the first
Sure.
page,
Are you on,
at the bottom of the first
attachment?
page. On the bottom of the first page of DASN committee policy, committee procedure.
Got it. Okay, so the the last sentence under general, which says public comments regarding policies, you're indicating public comment.
Right. I'm just saying that what it is now is 10 days. It just says defined public comment period. And I just should say, which is currently 10 days. In other words, you're just defining how long it is.
Okay, got it. I see the very last part of the sentence,
Right.
which is currently 10 days.
And then the only other thing I was going to say was,
Business days.
the only other thing I was going to ask was, and this is strictly up to the committee, and Mary's input is obviously asked too, but I was going to ask, and by the way, I don't mean to not want anybody's comment. I just like to move, and I'm just, so if somebody doesn't say anything, I'm just going to assume we're moving. And this one's going to be, this one has been a long meeting and we're not quite finished. But anyway, the next one is to say is that, and I don't know, I mean, I guess it's okay like it is, number C, but if
I'm lost, Barry. I hate to tell you this. Is it under under procedure
yeah, it's under policy procedure, which is,
in coordination with the policy committee chairperson? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
yes, it's on page
Sorry.
2 of that.
I was trying to catch back up. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I just have all my stuff sitting here in front of me, and I'm sorry that I'm going too fast.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I just need to find where I was. I'm good.
All right, well, the second page then, under C is what I'm looking at. And this is talking about that if the, which I can't imagine would ever happen to me as chairman of the policy committee, but it could happen to a different one, so we do need to go over it. But what it's talking about is that if the commission wants to move a policy out of the policy committee into another committee, that we can vote to do that even if the commission chairman refuses to do it. I mean, even if the committee chairman refuses to do it or doesn't want to do it, the commission can vote. But it also says in here that staff may request a review, and I'm not sure, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's not bad to let staff request a review, but if you're pushing a committee chairman to do something, it should be the commission should be asking him to do it, not so much formally the staff, I wouldn't think. But maybe I'm wrong.
So I think that's in there because, for instance, some of the things we've done so far that we needed to update because of procedures needing to change or clarity, we would come to the policy committee chair and we would say, we've got a problem with this directive. It's not reading well. We'd like to correct it because we've gotten so many questions. And so we would ask for you to reprioritize it. You could say no, but that's just giving us the opportunity to request it.
Okay, all right. Well, that's all right.
Like, for instance, I'm trying to think of one that we did recently. I've asked for appeals and reconsideration, that directive, to be put on the August agenda because we have case managers having some issues understanding which rights go to whom. So that's an example of a reason why we would request it be reprioritized. And certainly, again, you could say yes or no.
Okay, well, I'm not, okay, well, I'm sorry, I didn't read that right then. You can request anything I want you to request to me, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, so that's fine. So you're just requesting to the chairman, and then you're trying to say that the commission would decide whether they wanted to formally ask him or not. Is that what you're saying? So,
remember we voted on this in the committee meeting last month, kind of this language to add the second sentence upon the vote of the full commission. So the way it stands prior to that, the first sentence is just saying the policy committee chair or the commission or committees can request the review or reprioritization of these documents. And then, Commissioner Lamel said, I'd really like added that upon the vote of the full commission, one of these documents may also be directed to another DSN commission committee. It just offers flexibility that if there was some disagreement with the chairperson or some other element there, that would still be within his authority, the chair's authority.
Yeah, the chairman's authority to bring it before the commission. Sure, yeah, I agree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. I'd be shocked that'd be necessary for me, like I say, but yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I'm sorry. Go ahead. We're moving on. All right. Well, then as far as this goes, I don't really see anything else in this one then, unless it's a draft anyway. Does anybody else see anything else to go over in this policy?
Nothing.
I think we're good.
Okay. The next item on the agenda relates to refer to the next two, to the federal grant application and the community capital funding applications, which I would request that we bring we take it out of our committee and bring it into the Finance and Audit Committee, because it really does make sense if y'all read these, for these to be in the Finance and Audit Committee. So is there a motion to move those two?
I move.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the last thing that I wanted to bring up, and I'll try to be as quick as I can, is before we bring the rest of them to staff, is there's one down here for staff that I want to bring up before we do, I mean, I'm not saying we won't bring it to staff, but I want to bring up a couple things about it first. And it's the dual relationship policy. So I guess we're really not bringing it to staff because I'm saying something about it. So so I guess we'll just go through it now. And if we want to bring it back to staff, we can, or whatever. But when we were talking about last month respite services and how, what I was concerned about was that somebody would not do the job properly, and the person would not feel comfortable may not feel comfortable to fire that person if it was the wrong person they were having hired to do work. This is really what I was referring to more than anything, is this dual relationship. I mean, this kind of I didn't realize we had this policy. And so I just wonder if I'm not suggesting there's much change that need to be in this policy, other than I'm just asking if if it's against federal mandate in any way for us to say that in that respite policy, we would reference this policy and say that we want everybody to be clear that there is a policy on this, which is this policy right here, 27DD. And I just wonder if the committee has any problem with doing that, or if Mary or Susan has any problem with doing that.
So your suggestion is that you would reference in the respite policy, which was approved at the last meeting, and the commission then approved it, that you would go back to that and put in a reference that the reader should also be aware of this directive.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what I'm saying. And
that's fine. There shouldn't be any issue there. We just can't change the parameters of the requirements for who can be a respite service provider, because remember we said that was a DHHS stipulation, not within our authority. And so there would be absolutely no harm for referencing this directive, but we would just need to be clear that we're not changing any rules because that's not within our agency's authority.
But the only other thing I would ask is, wouldn't it be appropriate to say in this policy somewhere something to the effect of that that somebody that if they were not comfortable with them also for not, I mean, if it was somebody that they were not, that they were uncomfortable with, that we would I mean, that they, I'm not saying uncomfortable with, I'm saying that if I hire somebody that's kin to me to do work and I don't feel comfortable firing them, then I'm in a bad situation. And that would be the same if I was working somebody at my storage place or any other business that I have. If I'm not comfortable firing them, I don't need to hire them. And so my question is, can we put some sentence in here that says that we would recommend that you understand that you would need to be comfortable in a business relationship with this person, because it references business relationships in here about whether they're hired or not. And I just wonder if we ought to have a sentence in here about that. You understand what I'm saying, David?
Yes, I'm just waiting for staff to comment. I mean, what do they think?
So there's a part on page 3, I'm just trying to read and digest what you're saying. On page 3, the very first paragraph says, in the event that an outside relationship exists prior to the development of a provider relationship that would create a conflict, such as family members accessing provider services, the provider will make an effort to provide alternative staffing arrangements to avoid the creation of the dual relationship. So that sort of gets at that context.
Well, it does, but we need to be made more clear than that. I'm just saying it needs to say another paragraph sentence after that makes it more clear, and then after that, then you would say the staff person can bring the issue to the supervisor, his or her supervisor.
So you could insert a sentence.
Barry, does a dual relationship, as this is defined, must that be disclosed to the commission or to the director?
That's a good question.
That would overcome, I think, I mean, the fact that you have to disclose a dual relationship to the commission, and if it's a staffer, that relationship must be disclosed to the director. If it's the director has to disclose it to the commission. If it's any staff, the staff has to disclose it to the director. What about Mary? What do you think about that?
There's safeguards written. You want me to refer to those?
Yeah, I think that would really go. I'm not seeing it as a real big problem. I've just been practicing this a long time.
So page 2, the second header under safeguard, it says, whenever employees engage in interactions activities, they may represent the question of a dual relationship. They must do so only under the following conditions. First bullet, as part of the plan, with the advance approval of their supervisor. With the consumer's voluntary consent, followed by documentation of the event and consumer's record. So there's already a context there kind of saying, that the supervisor would have to approve.
Yeah, but it really doesn't say, I mean, when I read it, it didn't say to me, understand that you need to be comfortable to.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, it just seems to me like it needs to be a little more clearer to say that, because it's just very important to me that somebody would not get stuck with somebody, because I know it could easily happen, particularly in this respite situation. I know it could, and I'm surprised it hasn't. If it doesn't happen, I'm surprised it does not. I really am. But I'm not suggesting it does. I'm not. I mean, if you said it didn't, I wouldn't say you lied. I'm just saying that it just would shock me that it doesn't. And I just would like to make it as clear as we could that we would recommend that they take that into consideration.
Yeah, the reason why I say the director, I mean, if it's a substantial conflict, I think the director needs to know about it, not just some immediate supervisor at whatever level. That also, I'm not saying strike that. I'm saying that the director needs to be copied. Whatever the supervisor gets needs to be copied. Hey, this situation exists. But I'm open to whatever wording or, you,
I'm thinking, what about at the, like, if it's at the board level, would the executive director of the board be sufficient for that?
Well, I was really
Versus-
speaking of less than the board level. I was really speaking of less than that, but go ahead.
Well, okay.
So the applicability of this could be to DDSN staff and a
Right,
consumer, or their service provider staff and a consumer. So that's what we're trying to think of at the local level and at the DDSN
So
staff
if it's
level.
a DDSN board employee that might be involved in that dual relationship, then the executive director of that board needs to know.
Right.
Yet if it's a regional center employee or a central office staff employee, then the state director would be the person that needed to know.
So that's, I think, why it says supervisor there right now under
Yeah,
safeguard,
I think
but we could articulate it.
But a supervisor could be taken as just the next level up versus the actual person that's running the show.
Yep.
I think that would be,
So it should-
if you would delineate that better, I think that would be probably okay. Well,
yeah,
Like executive
yeah.
director, chief executive officer, regional center director, or state director? What would you like it to be with?
I think it would be the facility administrator.
Facility
If it's a regional center, if it's a central office employee or a regional, we don't even have regional offices anymore. So central office, it would be me, I guess.
State director?
State director.
Okay, so what I'm suggesting to solve this issue is under safeguards, the second bullet, add with the advance approval of their, instead of supervisors, executive directors, chief executive officer, facility administrator, or state director, based on your
Based on
your setting of
as
employment.
appropriate.
Yeah.
Would that work?
Yep.
Yeah, that solves that
Sorry,
problem.
Barry.
You've
That
got your
solves
other-
that problem for David. The only one I was saying was some sentence about, we would recommend that you were comfortable, if they were in a financial relationship to, if you were paying them, in other words, or they were in a financial situation, that we would recommend that you would consider, rather you would be comfortable, or rather you would be, I don't know, comfortable is not the right word, but rather you would be, you would feel it appropriate to dismiss them if necessary, or something like that.
If you're talking about the individuals receiving support themselves, they have their case manager they can report to, and they also have, they're supplied with the numbers to the ombudsman's office and to SLED, so they have reporting options. Do we want to I don't know if they're reading this policy, but
Well, they're not
if
reading the policy.
someone's uncomfortable within a relationship where they have someone taking care of them, then their avenue is to discuss that with their case manager when they monitor that service. So
No, but if it's a person that I know so personally that I don't feel comfortable saying it, then I'm just trying to get somebody to read this policy and recommend, ideally. I know it's an ideal world. A lot of this policy is an ideal world anyway. But in an ideal world, they would think about the fact that, wait a minute, if I hire this person, I'm going to end up in trouble. I mean, I could end up in trouble if they don't do a good job, because I'm not going to feel comfortable getting rid of them. And I just want them to be aware of that. And maybe it's a case manager needs to be aware of it to tell them. I'm just saying somebody needs to tell them. And I was thinking this policy was the way to tell somebody that we want them to be aware that that could happen. And if it did, before, not when it happened, before it happened, because once it happened, you could report it, yes. But I'm just trying to make them aware that it could easily happen. I just want you to be aware of that. Maybe I'm making too big a deal of it, but it just makes a difference to me, and I'm not sure I'm articulating it correctly, and I'm sorry I'm not. But it just makes it, and maybe we don't need to do anything with it, I guess. I don't know, because I'm going around in a circle now, and it's not good. So just,
Why don't we, Barry,
yeah.
why don't we carry this one over? Let's give it a little more thought and how to articulate exactly what it is we're trying to get. I know what you're trying to get to, but the wording is we've been going for 2 hours. My brain is kind of getting mushy.
Yeah, I know. Well, we can put this one off until the next policy committee meeting. we can table this one until the next one, and we can say that we do want to add it to the other one and approve it at the next committee meeting. We can say that we want to add,
Let's just,
please reference this policy
Barry,
on to the
Barry, let's
rest of
just
the
carry,
policy.
you don't even have to articulate what to do. Let's carry it over, and then we can kind of consume it in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
I'll
Okay.
second.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to say that would allow us to give some more probing questions to see exactly that we hit on what Commissioner Malphus is asking us to do. So I think that's great. The discussion would be good.
Good.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so we'll table this policy until the next meeting. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah. Move to carry over, Chairman.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. The last item on the agenda then is to move the rest of these last couple of policies to the staff, because they really are, to me, directly staff related. And I have no problem discussing them with anybody, with the committee if they want to, but I just think they need to be, I would recommend that they would be brought to staff.
That's the tuberculosis one and the behavior one.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yeah. Well, I make the motion if it's okay with with Stephanie.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to move those last two policies to staff, which are, to make it official, which are
560.
tuberculosis and behavioral crisis situations.
Yep.
One thing,
567.
if I may, on the disruptive behavior in crisis situations, as I read through it, I could not find a list of approved behavior modification systems used. And the question is, does this somewhere, if the employee uses those particular behavior modification systems, is the employee protected as well as DDSN? I just want to make sure when you do those, look at those issues. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, there's an attachment that lists the approved curricula, and that's updated periodically as new curriculum come on the market and providers ask us to review them. We'll review them and see if they meet requirements. And so, and generally, if restraint is, restraint is typically a part of the training program, although there is de-escalation, that's really the best part of it. But is typically in those situations that as long as a staff member uses the restraint appropriately for the appropriate situation, then, that reduces liability. It's when they're trained and they don't do it correctly that it produces a lot of issues. So the protections are using it when it's needed the right way. And so being certified is what helps you do both of those things.
And we of course are assuming that inherent in that behavioral thing and restraint thing is all that has emerged about George Floyd and the horrible. I keep getting mixed messages. I talked to one lawyer one time, and then I don't mean to drag this out, but that lawyer actually defended 3 cases. He said or 2 cases where there was a death involved, and it was a choking restraint. I don't think there's room, period, for any kind of choking restraint. And if y'all could just make sure so that when we see it again, that is shouted loud and clear.
Yes, I would like to look at those approved. I think that's important. Probably more important than just about anything we do is that we actually have a hands-on look at what those standards are, so that we understand as a committee what liability we are accepting.
Okay, well then we don't need to pass it to staff. Then we need to bring it back to the next committee meeting.
Chairman, doesn't it come back to the full committee?
Yeah.
Well, it comes back to the full. It comes back to
Comes
Well,
back
yeah,
to
it comes
the
back to the full, yeah, it comes back to the full committee. It doesn't come back to the policy committee though, but if you
No.
want to bring it to the full committee, that's fine.
Well, I mean, it's coming back to the
Policy
full
for us to
committee,
look
so I would move that it be sent to staff with, and I'll just go ahead and put this as motion with special attention to be paid to the abandonment and not abandonment, but the prohibition against using any kind of choking restraint under any circumstances.
Okay. All I can say, I agree with you 100%, David, but all I can say is God bless those that have to restrain people in any way, because I don't know how you do it correctly anymore. And they have to do it sometimes, so I don't know how you do it.
We have prohibited any prone restraints, taking people to the floor.
Okay.
We have prohibited that.
Right.
And we are currently reviewing all the curriculums out there to make sure that is not a module in those curriculums.
Sure. So they're going under a secondary level
So
of
we're looking
review.
at a secondary review of them right now.
Right.
Well, there's a guy there's a guy that works for one of the providers named Sam Chapman. Sam Chapman was one of the originators in the upstate of South Carolina of karate, and he works with a particular program, and I've forgotten the name of it, but he works with a particular program where the young people, and they're typically very young, have been sent by the court, and they're under the auspices of this group, which is a provider for our department. And this is his specialty. Nobody's choked, but there are all kinds of Aikido moves and stuff like that that can subdue somebody without endangering their life, period.
Sure. And I just wanted to.
What this particular lawyer told me was that there was a choke, and one of the cases he defended, and the person was on the ground and was in a choke to subdue him, and then accidentally it lasted too long and it killed him. Well, he defended that in court, and the officer got off. I mean, as well, it was just an accident. But I don't think we can allow the procedure, period. So, Mary, good for you for outlawing anything that's a choke on the ground, because that sure does increase the risk.
Sure. And I just want to.
We do not have any approved restraints that would put an arm around somebody's throat.
No, there's a big difference between a law enforcement and their ability to use necessary force versus what we're talking about, which is certified restraint procedures to prevent a person from harming themselves or others, which is very different. We're trying not to just subdue, but to prevent harm. And so that's why there are these certification programs that would limit people from using very
That's good.
Susan, I think that was Susan that was talking. The defense was literally that the person they were afraid, supposedly the person was going to hurt himself, and so they had him on the ground, not with hands around him, but with the knee on the neck, and that's exactly how Floyd was killed.
There's no one I know. There's not one
That's
restraint that is approved that way, so.
not in our system.
Yeah.
That would not be the kind of restraint. So we'll be glad to articulate further as we go through that review process.
Well, I think if it's not crystal clear, it'll blow up in the full commission meeting. So pay real close attention to it. But anyway, I don't want to dwell on it. I so move that this be handed over to staff to deal with these two items, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded with no further discussion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Last item is adjournment, I believe.
The federal grant and the capital funding, community capital funding ones.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
we're done.
We move those to the finance committee.
Okay.
Sure. And Commissioner Melfors, the only last thing was, I think that you were going to mention in section 4.
Sorry.
Section 4.
I wanted to let y'all know it. Sorry, I'm sorry before we adjourn. I see it now, Susan. Sorry, I'm sorry. There's a list of 45 policies that I have in my possession here that's on the website that are being, but I didn't bother to list them on all this page because I didn't want to overwhelm everybody. into thinking that we were going to be going through 45 policies today, because we're not. We've already been through enough. But it's just the rest of the 45 policies that we are considering going through for the rest of this year. And that could change based upon if something happens and we need to bring something else back up, or something else happens. But that's what our plan is, basically, is these 45 policies to be going through. And if you want a list of them, Susan would be happy to send them to you, or you could also look at the website to see them. But that's pretty much that. But that's what we're trying to do this year. And half of them are going on from January to June. Half of them are going on now, and then we'll put another half on in January to go from January to June.
Okay.
But like I say, that's subject to change. So if somebody on the committee wants to bring up something else, let me know, and we'll figure out what policy it is, because we have so many policies, we'd have to figure out which one it was. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Chairman, if you need a second on adjournment.
We don't need that, really. But anyway, we've been so moved to adjourn, so we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. At 5:15 for the record. Sorry, it took so long.